You should have finished watching the video lecture on Coleridge's Frost at Midnight. We're going to turn now to Yeats's A Prayer for My Daughter. Like Frost at Midnight, A Prayer for My Daughter is a poem that features a father sitting up next to his sleeping infant and having thoughts about what that child's life will be like. The resemblances in there, though. Let's look at technical things first. Whereas Frost at Midnight was written in blank verse, A Prayer for My Daughter is written in stanzas, each 8 lines long. And it is a rhymed poem. The rhyme scheme is AA, BB, C, D, C. So in each stanza, you have 2 couplets followed by a quatrain that has a rhyme scheme in which the external lines rhyme with one another and the internal lines rhyme with one another. In Coleridge's poem, the father looks at his child and feels at peace. As he sits near the sleeping baby, he thinks about his own childhood and vows that his baby's life will be quite different. His baby will wander like the breeze. By contrast, when the speaker of Yeats's poem looks at his baby, he becomes anxious. We can tell this in 2 ways. 1, he writes that he has great gloom in his mind. And 2, nature in this poem seems to be out to get the baby. Whereas Coleridge writes in silent and peaceful solitude, Yeats writes in the middle of a storm that once more is howling. His child is half hid, but apparently not hidden enough for safety. The storm, bred on the Atlantic, is roof leveling. That is, it is trying to knock the house down and may succeed. If it's the speaker's job to make sure his child is safe, he shows himself to be incapable of doing so. Physically, the only barriers to the howling storm are Gregory's Wood and One Bare Hill, that is, a wood belonging to Lady Gregory's estate. So, from the get-go, we have a poem that is very different tonally from Coleridge's. If you want to put this in Sleeping Beauty fairy godmother terms, Coleridge is making wishes in the early part of the party before the evil fairy arrives. Yeats is trying to ameliorate that bad fairy's curse. The speaker in the poem tells us that he has been pacing and praying for his defenseless child for an hour. The main thing that has happened in that time is that he has been hearing the sea wind screaming upon the tower and also in the elms above the flooded stream. Like Coleridge, he goes into an imaginative reverie, but unlike Coleridge, what he imagines is that some terrible, nightmarish future years have arrived. In standard form for wishes about a female child, Yeats's speaker wishes that she will be beautiful, but then he immediately takes back that wish. Why does he do this? Well, the first explanation he offers is that if she is too beautiful, she may make a stranger's eye distraught. In other words, Yeats imagines that if she is too beautiful, she may upset someone Yeats doesn't even know yet. Almost as an afterthought, he adds that he also hopes she won't become vain, which is a possibility for very beautiful women. He thinks that very beautiful women are ruined as human beings. They deploy their beauty to get what they want and never learn how to find a friend. At this point, we should stop and talk for a minute about the woman who is behind much of what's happening in Yeats's poetry, Maud Gonne. To tell the whole saga of their relationship would take more time than we have this semester, but suffice it to say they were star-crossed lovers. When he wanted to be with her, she didn't want to be with him, and vice versa. They each married someone else, and Yeats never really forgot it. In Eastern 1916, the man who had done most grievous wrong to someone Yeats cared for is Maud Gonne's husband. The you in When You Are Old and Adam's Curse is Maud, and Your Close Friend in the latter poem is Maud's sister. In any poem by Yeats, if Helen of Troy comes up, it's Maud. It is unkind of me, but sometimes I suspect that Yeats made a mess of their relationship so he could keep her for his poetry. You can write a lot of poems about unrequited love, but only one poem about requited love, I think. So this stanza, talking about the mythological Helen's bad choices, is really about Maud Gunn's bad choices. And here we isolate a key difference between Frost at Midnight and A Prayer for My Daughter. In Frost, the speaker remembers his bad childhood and vows that nothing like that will happen to his kid. In Prayer, the speaker remembers a woman who done him wrong and vows that his infant child will never break the heart of a man the way his heart was broken. One father is focused on his child's possibilities and happiness. The other is focused on his own sense of injury. I have a daughter myself, and I can assure you that as she has grown up, when I have thought about her future dating life, I have hoped that she will be safe and happy and that she will meet someone who loves her and cherishes her as much as I do. I have never, not for 1 second, thought about imaginary boys or men she might meet someday and hoped that they would emerge from dating her unscathed. I want to suggest that my attitude is very, very normal. Who looks at their sleeping baby and feels sorry for the men whose hearts she will break one day? And so it goes. The rest of the poem is filled with the speaker's wishes for his daughter, that she be like a flourishing hidden tree, that she be learned in courtesy, that she not be too intellectual, and that eventually her bridegroom will bring her to a house where all's accustomed, ceremonious. At a time when women were getting the right to vote, to attend university, to be members of the professions like law and medicine, Yeats's speaker wishes for his daughter none of the possibilities opened up by modernity. Instead, he wishes for her a retreat from everything modern. So if this poem argues that modernity is the problem, and the only solution to retreat to some hidden place where one can avoid modernity, how is this poem a modern poem? Do you think Yeats is writing ironically here? Can we find space between the speaker's attitude and Yeats's in the way we did with the wild swans at Cool?